Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be breaking down and trying to predict all 16 games in week 13 of the 2025 NFL season. So last week I went an impressive 11-3, which I think was the best week of my career in predictions, a long way off the tiebreaker, but that's fine. Week 12 was a very weird week. We've had the Eagles collapse a late game against the Cowboys, allowing 24 unanswered points. We've had the Buccaneers losing to the Rams and Baker Mayfield picking up a left shoulder sprain. We still don't know who's going to play this week. And we've had our first team eliminated from the postseason in the New York Giants. So, let's begin with the Green Bay Packers taking on the Detroit Lions. The Packers, they dealt with the Minnesota Vikings very effectively. JJ McCarthy didn't look very good, and that Green Bay defense continues to impress. The offense is doing enough, and Green Bay are definitely in the race for first place in the NFC North. They're taking on the Lions, who they should not have been that close against the Giants, but they defeated the Giants, and ultimately this loss eliminated the Giants from the postseason. The Lions is an interesting one because they've had games where I think they're good and then they have blowout losses. And remember, these two teams have played in week 1 and the Packers won that game. (27-13). So this one is being played in Ford Field. I don't know. I have to pick. I think it's going to be a close game. It usually is in NFC North games. I'm picking the Packers to get a road win and sweep the Lions, even though I really like Jared Goff. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs, they pulled off the win against the Colts last week, and I think they knew I predicted them to win, and thus they decided to defeat the Colts despite losing 20-9. They're taking on the Cowboys, who defeated the Philadelphia Eagles last week, putting up 24 unanswered points and making Dak Prescott look amazing, especially in the second half of the game. Now this one, I ummed and ahed over it a bit more than the first one, but I am going to have to go with the Kansas City Chiefs here. They're creeping back up in the AFC West. And we'll have to see if the other AFC West teams, specifically the Chargers and the Broncos, can stop the inevitable. Then we have the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals, their defense showed up for a week and they still lost to the Patriots last week. But Joe Burrow will probably be playing this game against the Ravens, which is a huge huge plus to that offense. But still, there are some unreliabilities on that defense that continue to shine. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson is not looking his best, but they're still putting up wins against the New York Jets. And the Baltimore defense is much better than it used to be. Given that this game is being played in Baltimore and the Ravens are a bit more of a complete team for me, I'm picking Baltimore to get the win and continue to extend their lead on the AFC North. Then we have the Alliance brothers, the Chicago Bears, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. In case you don't know, there's some rumours around that these two teams have been in an alliance this season, because the Bears have defeated all of the Eagles' division rivals, the Cowboys, the Commanders, and the Giants, and the Eagles have done the same to the Bears, the Lions, Packers, and Vikings. And now they have to play each other. So, this game is going to be a very interesting one because the Bears took care of business against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Aaron Rodgers had to sit out and Mason Rudolph played instead. And of course we talked about how the Eagles collapsed against the Cowboys, 24 unanswered points. Barkley was listed as limited in practice, so we don't know if he's going to be ready to play or not. But still, I have to go with the Eagles. Their defense is probably going to pull them out of this situation against the Bears. The Bears are a good team. They've beaten some good opponents, I believe. Who have the Bears beaten? So I'm going to have to look this up. 2025 Chicago Bears season. Yeah, looking at Wikipedia, let's have a look. So they beat the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Saints, the Bengals, the Giants, the Vikings, and the Steelers. They lost to the Vikings, the Lions, and the Ravens. I don't know, there's some teams there that are bad. Like the Raiders, for example. But I am picking the Eagles. They've beaten better teams. They've beaten the Lions. They've beaten the Rams. They've beaten the Buccaneers before Mayfield and the rest of the team got injured. So I'm picking Philadelphia to get the win. Sorry, Alliance brothers, but the alliance is inevitably going to end. Then we have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Cleveland Browns. The 49ers beating the Panthers last week. I still don't know why I picked the Panthers to win that game, because I'm dumb and hate the 49ers. I think mostly the first one though. They're going to be playing against the Browns, who defeated the Las Vegas Raiders last week. It's just weird. The Browns are a team who have a really good defense, but their offense, I have questions over. 49ers, Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions in the first half, and people wanted Mac Jones back, but I'm going to have to go with the 49ers here to keep the NFC West race close between the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. It's insane how close that division is. All 3 of them could make the postseason. We'll have to see. Then we have a AFC South? Yeah, AFC South matchup between the Jaguars and the Titans. The Jaguars, it was close against the Arizona Cardinals. Trevor Lawrence didn't look his best, but they still got the win over the Cardinals. The Titans, I think they're a better team than their record implies, because they kept it close against the Seattle Seahawks, and Cam Ward is probably the guy for them. We have to wait and see over the next few seasons if Cam Ward is their franchise quarterback, but things look at least a little bit more stable in Tennessee. They're still one of the worst teams in the league, but they're playing against a division rival in the Jaguars, and the Jaguars have been inconsistent this season, but I'm going to have to pick them to win. I think on paper, they're the better team. Obviously, football's not played on paper, it's played on turf. And we'll have to see if... Let's hope. The Titans, despite having a worse record than the Giants, are still technically in playoff contention. Somehow. which is nuts actually. So I'm going to have to look it up again. Let's have a look. If they win all 6 of their remaining games, they go to 7-10. Assuming one of these teams loses all 6 of the last games, 7-10, they have a very small chance of getting in the postseason. If they lose to the Jaguars, it's game over. But sorry, Titans fans, I'm picking the Jaguars to win. Then we have the Houston Texans taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Texans with a shock victory against the Buffalo Bills last week. The Texans are one of the best defenses in the league. The fewest points allowed by quite a margin. And then the Colts are still a good team. They were winning 20-9 against the Chiefs. Unfortunately for Daniel Jones and the rest of the Colts, it got away from them. But this game is going to be a true test for the Colts. They had to deal with a good defense, a questionable offense. Who knows if CJ Stroud's going to be back. But I am going to have to pick the Colts to win. I believe that they're still a really good team. If anyone can beat the Texans' defense, it's going to be a team like the Colts. And you have to see what happens in the AFC South. Then we have the New Orleans Saints taking on the Miami Dolphins. The Saints, they lost to the Atlanta Falcons last week and it wasn't even close. And the Dolphins, they came off their bye week, they're 4-7. And again, in the AFC West, it looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race between the Bills and the Patriots. And AFC East, sorry, I don't know why I said AFC West, I'm an idiot. This game is going to be interesting, because the Saints, New Orleans isn't that far from Miami. But the Saints are probably one of the worst teams in football. They're still in playoff contention because they can still win the division, I believe. No, they can't. They'll have to require the Buccaneers and the Panthers and the Falcons all collapsing. The Saints are not dead yet, but this will probably reduce their playoff chances significantly if they lose to the Dolphins. Then we have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New York Jets. The Falcons took care of business against the Saints last week, even without Michael Penix Jr. Let's have a look. He's still on IR, I think. I think he's still injured. He hasn't played since the Panthers game. So Kirk Cousins will be the starter against the Jets. As for the Jets, they're a mess. They traded away a lot of good defensive players, and they still are keeping games fairly close, especially in the first half against the Ravens, but then the Ravens pulled away. And unfortunately for the Jets, it's going to be another loss, this time to the Falcons. I'm really sorry, Jets. Then, this game's going to be interesting. We have the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both these teams losing last week. The Cardinals lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. Oh my god, I'm so tired. And then we have the Buccaneers who got blown out against the Rams. And Baker Mayfield picking up a shoulder sprain. We still don't know if he's going to be playing against the Cardinals or not. He can, but it might be Terry Bridgewater instead. I just don't know if this Tampa Bay team, with the injuries they've gotten, can beat teams like the Cardinals with Terry Bridgewater. I don't think he is going to do anything special against the Cardinals if he plays. I just don't know. Like, the Buccaneers usually have a mid-season collapse but come back at the end. And I'm hoping that they do the same this season as they pick up a win against the Cardinals. Then we have the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Rams have to take on another NFC South opponent in the Panthers, and the Panthers have to take on another NFC West opponent. But the Rams, they're looking like one of the best teams in the league right now. Their offense is doing well. Matthew Stafford's playing well. Their defense is keeping opponents contained mostly. And they might have finally sorted out their special teams issues. They're looking like a really good team, favoured to compete with the Seahawks for the NFC West title. The 49ers are still in the race, of course. And the Panthers are currently 6-6. They haven't had their bye week yet. They're one loss away behind the Buccaneers. But I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Rams. Like, Cam Newton is throwing a lot of picks. And I don't think the Panthers will be the answer to the Rams. But the Panthers have beaten the Packers this season. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping the Rams win this game. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Vikings lost to the Green Bay Packers last week, and it looks like it's a mess in Minnesota compared to last season where they swept the Packers but then lost the Rams in the wild card round. And the Seahawks, they beat the Tennessee Titans last week. It was close, but the Seahawks and Sam Darnold pulled off the win. Sam Darnold's taking on his former team in the Vikings this week at Lehman Field. No, have I got my stadiums mixed up? No, I haven't. Lehman Field is the Seattle Stadium. So I thought I got Lehman Field confused with this 49ers home stadium, which I don't even know what it is. Levi's Stadium, of course. Levi's? I don't know. Seahawks, they're going to win this game, keeping it one game away from the Rams in the NFC West. And eventually, these two teams, the Rams and the Seahawks, will have to play each other at Lehman Field. The Seahawks have been not as good at home as they have been on the road, but I think they're still going to pick up the win over the Vikings. The Sam Darnold's revenge game is going to go over to Seattle for this one. Then we have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both these teams losing last week. We have the Bills losing to the Texans and the Steelers losing to the Bears. Josh Allen's been inconsistent this season. He's beaten the Buccaneers. Then he's losing to the Dolphins. He's losing to the Texans. He's beaten the Chiefs and the Buccaneers, and he's losing to teams like the Dolphins. I don't know if the Bills are going to be a Super Bowl contender. They're probably going to make the postseason, but it might be a loss in the wild card round. We'll see. Obviously, closer to January, if the Bills are going to be a playoff team, a playoff contender. They're taking on the Steelers, who lost to the Bears. They have Mason Rudolph starting. is a mess in Pittsburgh. They had a massive division lead over the Ravens, and now the Ravens are in front. And it's going to continue that way. I predict the Bills are going to get the win and keep it competitive with the New England Patriots in the AFC East. Almost said West again. Then we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West matchup. The Raiders, they lost the Cleveland Browns last week. I don't know where it went wrong. They beat the Patriots in week 1 and now they're 2-9. And the Chargers, they enjoyed their bye week last week, so we don't have to see Justin Herbert getting destroyed behind the offensive line. This game has been played in Los Angeles, and the Raiders aren't a very good team. They struggle to even contain the Browns offense. You know how bad that is. I'm picking the Chargers to get the win, keeping the AFC West a 3-horse race. And speaking of the AFC West, the penultimate game is going to be the Denver Broncos taking on the Washington Commanders. Both these teams enjoyed their bye week last week. There's not much to say. The Broncos and Bo Nix are a really good team. Their defense is great. Their offense is doing enough to win games. I think it's a pretty straightforward pick. The Broncos are going to beat the Commanders. Then, finally, you have the New York Giants taking on their old Super Bowl rivals, the New England Patriots. The Giants, they lost to the Lions. They've been eliminated from the postseason. Now they have to take on the Patriots, who beat the Bengals last week. It would be amazing if the Giants can pull off this shock win, but I think Drake May and the Empire will prevail. Foxborough is going to be the demise of the Giants, even though they're already dead. As for points, I don't know, I'm picking 37 because why not? And that's going to be about it in this predictions. Then, hopefully we can continue our momentum from last week. So 11-3 is our best result since week 2. We went 13-3. Then week 4 happened, which I've talked about week 4 too many times already. But we'll have to see who is good and who's not, because we still don't know. I'll see you next time.